What is going on, you filthy animals? Man, we've got a lot of work to do today. We've got some parts delivered. We've got some, man, let's go to our whiteboard or our blackboard, better yet. First things first. Oops, good on the old paint, I'm sure. It'll be all right. I see that. Let's address the old elephant in the room before we even get going. That's right. The eye. My dog, oh, wrong eye. See, I don't even know where it's at. My wife found out about all the money we've been spending on the Jeep. First problem. No, I'm just kidding. She really don't care. Me and the dog was getting a little rowdy the other morning, and well, he come up, hit me right in the eye. So let's get going here. We got a list of stuff to do. I've got to make a list, or I'm going to just be like a squirrel going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. Wiring harness. Wiring harness. What's next? We got our intercooler piping, or non-intercooler pipe. We just got to make some adjustments. Not much, just adding and subtracting. So we'll just put intercooler pipe. We've got to add a little bit to our exhaust. Our exhaust is about flush with the hood, so any smoke that we make, well, it just covers everything up, so we got to add to that. What else do we got here? We've got to add to our wiring. We got gauges. We got some gauges to install. Gauges and wiring for those. That'll be fun. What else? What else? Fuel line. We got return fuel line fittings. Return fuel line. We also have to, so our AirDog 2.4G that we've got powering this thing, I ordered a kit from AirDog to actually swap it over to fueling for a 24 valve. I think it's like a lot higher pressure maybe for the 12 valves, so I've actually got to break back into that, take all the new parts out that I just put in all the old parts back. That way we can get our pressures lowered down for the VP. So AirDog tuning. Not really tuning, just parts replacement. What else do we have? Oh, our upper water neck. Let's go over that right now, actually, because that's a problem that we've got to address. I was out here the other evening just pedaling around, and well, I threw this crossbar on because I was looking at it. I said, man, it looks like it's going to get awfully close to our radiator or our alternator bracket here. So I just sort of quickly threw it on, just set it on really. And of course it's got the weight of the motor in there right now, so it's bowed the frame in just a little bit. So I've actually just got to pry this side down a little bit. No big deal. But I come into our first problem. Let me show you. Where our original water neck was going to be is right here. And well, this one right here that come out of the 12 valve actually bolted to pretty much right there where the side of the alternator is. So I'm getting it one-handed here, swapped around. It actually bolted in right there and then went up, and the upper neck line, I had a 45, so it went up and then followed the contour of this bar and then went right into the radiator. Well, this one, it sort of bolts the 24 valve. I don't have it right now, but it bolts right here, and then it actually comes right here where this stinking bar is. So that's a problem. So what I was going to do is it comes out and then it 90s and pretty much is in the same space where this bar is at. And then what we was going to do was cut it down and then weld a new bung on it like that. But it's going to be pretty much right where this bar is at. So what I think I'm gonna do is I texted Michael and was like, hey, if we ain't got that thing welded, let's just check up on that because I'm gonna have to do something different. So I got online and I actually found a piece that you can just bolt straight down on there, and it's got hey, I think it's a billet piece, but it's threaded for -20 already, straight out of the top. So it's just a straight up nipple, it'll clear that. The only other crummy part is, once this is all bolted down, we're not gonna be able to get to this plug right here. I don't know if you can see or not, there's clearance, but when this is pushed down and bolted in, it's right at the top of this fitting here. So I'm probably gonna have to pull that fitting out and plug that. And I've actually went ahead and put another temperature sensor in down here, which is where the original 12 valve one was, so I'm okay with that. We've got to put our slave cylinder, mount that back onto the transmission. We'll probably, once we get the wiring harness on it, get our fuel lines and our pump figured out. I'll probably go ahead and fire this thing up and then fill up our power steering reservoir and get all the power steering fluid in it, because I made a terrible mess the last time when it was, the wheels and tires were on it, everything was on it. I couldn't hardly get a funnel down through here. It looks pretty open right now, but I promise you it's not. I couldn't get it, especially like with this fuel line right here. This fuel line runs right through here and right over top of that cap. So like, I don't know. I should probably do something different there, but yeah, we'll have to figure that out. But we're gonna go ahead and get that filled up, and then, I don't know. So I told you guys, we're gonna run it right now non-intercooled, so I'm just gonna go ahead and build the piece pipe over and put the little rubber boot right there between those two. I actually did go ahead and do some measurements and found an intercooler online that I'd ordered, and I think it's gonna fit perfect in our radiator. So I measured, we had about a 12-inch gap in our radiator right here between this lower support and the upper support. I think it was about 25 inches from here to here. I do think we're gonna have to cut out a little bit, do a little bit of clearancing here, a little bit of clearancing here, and then possibly into our light housings. I don't know, we'll have to figure that out. So here is our 4-foot section of 3-inch pipe. Just, we needed a couple pieces for our intercooler. Here's a 4-inch piece of pipe. Just needed that to extend the exhaust out the hood. And then we've got, I don't know, I wasn't wanting to use this crummy split sleeve stuff for our wiring harness, but we're probably going to. And then I got, I don't know, 25 foot of heat shrink tubing. We're not gonna heat shrink the whole thing, just the ends, you know, make it nice. We got a couple, we went the cheap route, which I'm okay with that. Hey, these things work. And then we've got, oh, this is our heat wrap for our exhaust. We're gonna get into that too here in a little while. So maybe today, maybe tomorrow, I don't know, one day. And then we've got ordered just a couple of these little brackets here to mount. We've got, I mean, a man spends a ton of money on some autometer gauges and they don't even come with these things. What's up with that? So try to mount our autometer gauges. I think this is a water. I've just got 3 generic, like a water, an oil pressure, and voltmeter. So to me, I'm good. If I got volts, I got water or coolant, and then I've got oil pressure, I'm good. So we got to figure out in here, sorry it's a little dark, we got to figure out exactly where we're mounting these at. I don't know if I want to mount them sort of underneath this little lip right here, or if we want to go ahead and try to build us a nice dash and use it there. We'll get there when we get there. But enough yapping. Let's get some work going on this old girl. I mean, we've got a lot to do. I mean, I guess not a lot of time. That's what I'm saying. I'd really like to get this thing done. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna start off first. We're gonna go ahead and strip down this wiring harness, pull all this old wire loom off. I know roughly the plugs that I need. I am gonna go inside and print off a schematic though, just so I don't remove anything. Honestly, I think what I'm gonna do is just the plugs that I don't need, we're gonna snip them off somewhere. I don't know if we're gonna do it down here or maybe just back in the harness somewhere and tape them off. That way they don't get grounded out. I don't know. I thought about trying to de-pin them, but I don't have a de-pinning tool and I don't really want these holes just to be open like if we do deepen that. So yeah, that's where we're at with that. So let's quit yapping and get to some business. So we got a couple, 2 or 3 wiring diagrams printed off here that I found on the old interwebs. Hopefully, hey, I'm not the smartest man, and I honestly don't 100% know what I'm looking at, but you look at it long enough, you look at the wiring harness. Luckily, I've got the donor truck out there. I went out there because I had two plugins on this end of the wiring harness that I could not think for the life of me what they went to. One of them goes to the AC compressor, the other goes to the high pressure, or the AC high pressure switch. So, ran out to the truck, there's a hose with a plug in on it. That's where that goes. We don't have AC, we're not worrying with that mess. So, that's 4 wires that we can eliminate from this whole harness here. That's all junk. So really, I mean, when you look at it, it's not too terribly bad. A lot of these wires is like grounding wires, and somewhere along this mess here, it goes into one. See, like this one right here? Here's about 6 wires going into one. Oh, and that's the ground. Okay, so back up. That's got to stay like that, but instead, this wire did run along that side and plugged in above the fender well, and then I think that ground went to the main fuse box. So we're actually just going to reroute this. We're going to 180 it, go back this way, and then we'll tie into our ground over here. So really the only wires that we're going to have that jump up over the front of the motor is like 1, 2, maybe, actually 2. These right here go into our alternator. So yes, alternator wires. These over here, these few can be eliminated. You know, I thought about keeping them, or keeping one of them anyways, because I've seen a couple people take the AC compressors and not necessarily gut them, but they've turned them into just air compressors. You know, they're compressing, but instead of compressing refrigerant, they're just compressing air. That would be probably, you know, a pretty cool thing, but because we do have, you know, 1, 2, 3, half a dozen air lockers under here. Ask me why I've got so many. I don't know. Maybe it was a purchasing mishap and we ended up with 3. But so we are going to need some air somehow or another. But I think what I'm going to do is just, you know, go the traditional route and just buy an ARB air compressor if we decide to go with these. I bought these and all of our gears during like a, what was it, the Black Friday sale stuff. You know, 10% off. Woo, we're going to, you know, spend all of our money then. So after doing so, I've talked to several other people, and I don't know, they've got me sorted down on the air lockers. I don't know that I'm going to go with the air locker now. I don't know. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. Apparently there's a lot of problems. They're very problematic. I don't know. Never had one. You know, I've always dreamed of having one. Now I've got 3. So it's besides the point. We're we're going to do away with all those wires. And honestly, that I think is the majority of the wires that we're going to do away with on this side of the harness. So right here is where it goes into our ECM. I think this goes to our oil pressure switch. One of these does. This goes to our oil pressure. This goes to maybe our intake air temp. I don't know. One of the two. Pressure, PSI, boost, maybe. Yeah, so we're going to get rid of those. And then on this side of the harness, really the only thing that we're doing away with is this appears to be some groundage. We're going to keep this. I'm still sort of debating too. This plug-in right here, I know goes to our fuel pump. So when you turn your key on, your fuel pump gets power. It initially, I think, fires up, runs for so many seconds, maybe 30 seconds, and then it shuts off, and then you can bump your key, and then the fuel pump kicks back on and just runs, I think, for a longer duration or maybe forever until you turn the key back off. So right now, my fuel pump is wired straight into my switch. So we may do away with this, but then again, I'm a sucker for plugs and having everything factory, I guess. So we may go back to that. That would be more work. So I don't know, I'm still undecided on that. I gotta figure out where this plug-in goes. I'm wanting to say that's some pretty beefy wires right there. That almost looks like that could have went to our grid heater. We don't have a grid heater no more, so we're going to do away with that as well. I do want to run these wires back. There's a couple, 3 or 4 wires here that I'm going to run back to this plug here. And obviously we're not going to need those, so we'll probably just lop those off. I don't know if in the plug, maybe come up a little bit from the plug and then make sure they're cut off inside the wire loom somewhere. So maybe that way they have a little bit more protection. They're not getting so much dirt. Water, moisture is my biggest thing. What I would really love to do is find the wires in this pin here and depin them, and then, I don't know, try to fill in that void somehow with something. Because what I don't want is moisture getting up inside here and corroding anything out. That's like the world's worst with electrical stuff is moisture. Moisture is your enemy. So we want to do away with all these wires. And then we want to do away with all these wires. So honestly, like once we get this whole thing right here is going to be pretty naked. Pretty naked. And then we've got, you know, a couple, 2 or 3 here. What is this? This is just, wires are going everywhere. Have I said or mentioned that I hate wiring? It's just, to me, it's too complicated. It's just too much wires that twist. Like, I wonder why these are twisted. There's got to be a reason. There's like 4 orange wires go in, 1 orange wire comes out, and then miraculously 2 more wires jump in. Like, how? Why? Where did you come from? I don't know. I don't know. All right, so, but what I do know is the plugs that we don't need, we're just going to follow those wires back. Probably, I don't know, we might come off a foot of here, cut them off, do the same on this side, yap them off. Cross our fingers that we don't cut something off that wasn't intended to get cut off. So I'm actually going to study these charts just a little bit more. Make sure, you know, study once. I'm sorry, study like a lot. Snip once, because once you snip, I mean, you can add them back, but might not add them back in the right place. So, and these things are nasty. I need to go get some dielectrical grease and some electrical cleaner, I guess. All right, so I think we've got her figured out. I got a slew of wires cut off of it back here in the back. Let's show you. Got a bunch of these. The only thing that I am going to need to keep, probably not this exact one, but I'm going to run a different one. This is the main power wire that goes from the alternator to the battery. So yeah, we're going to have to make another one of these. But I mean, we was able to cut off a few of these. So the only other plug-in that I was sort of in question about was this one right here, because this was the only other plug-in that we removed that I was sort of in question about removing, mainly because it went to our alternator, which I was sort of hoping to use that, but hey, we're going to do something different because I think the regulator for that alternator, and you may know better than I do, but I traced it back. These wires didn't even go to the ECM on the side of the motor. It went up to the PCM, or the body control module, whichever, and I think that's got the voltage regulator in it. So, which one of these is just a wire showing you your voltage? The other one is showing your charging voltage, maybe? I don't know. Hey, we're doing away with it, okay? So, all of the wires that we cut off for these, which, like, it looks like a lot. What is it? I think 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 wires. We cut off 13. We did a little bit more trimming, such as like this hot wire. I think one of these wires ran up to one of those plugs, and that's what we was running our initial 12 volts to. But then it just goes into like this piece here and then runs to this thicker wire, which is all right. So that's going to run to the battery next. So what I'm going to do now though is I've cut off, you know, however many of these little things we need. And all this is heat shrink with like the glue inside when it gets hot. So what I've been doing is just sliding them over each of these wires about halfway, you know, nothing too crazy. That way they close completely off, and hopefully we make this contact just weather tight. I do not want moisture getting in. Oh, that's getting hot on the fingertip. I do not want moisture getting inside that wire and then it starting to corrode it and then it traveling down this wire into this connector, because then ultimately it's going to start corroding inside the connector, which we don't want. So, and my lighter's not going to last, I can promise you that. This thing's done a bunch. So there's 3 done and about a dozen more to go. Just under a dozen more to go. So let's, oh, that's 4 done now. Okay, awesome. So let's just keep going, making progress. Once we get this done, we're going to then put the wire and harness back on the motor. Obviously there's not going to be any wire loom, but I do have a bunch of them small zip ties. So I'm going to like zip tie the harness up tight. You know, take the slack out of where we need it, leave it where we do, yada yada. Try to get it where it's going to play. And then our other gauges, like our water temp gauge, our voltmeter gauge, all those gauges, we're going to run the wires as well. And then we'll probably try to catch this harness with some of those. So whenever we do pull this harness back off the motor to wire loom it all the wires will be in a single loom and not have like 3 or 4 different looms just stacked on top of one another and just look real trashy. So that's the plan. So let's get to it. If you guys, I found these documents here on the old interwebs, just sort of telling you what wires goes to what. This one's been super informative because it's got the actual color codes of the wires and then also where they're at on this 50 pin connector. So if I don't know exactly what one of these, like, I don't know why, a couple of these I was getting confused. This is the camshaft or crankshaft, and this one is the other camshaft, one of the two. I was getting super confused. So what I did is I actually traced the wires back to this connector, and then I found the numbers, and then I just went over here and found the numbers on here, and then boom, it's got right out to the side what it is. So I was like, hey, that's what it is. So I just put tape on there, wrote on there which one it was, and went from there. So if you guys need these though, I'd be more than happy to throw them in the old scanner, and I might try to put these in the description below if I'm smart enough to figure it out. I don't know, we'll see. If not, hit me up, send me a message, and I can send these to you via email or Instagram, or maybe on YouTube. I don't know. I don't know if I can put those in the comments. I don't know. We'll try it. So let's get back to it. Let's get these done, get this harness, throw it on the Jeep. back installed. I don't know if you can tell or not. We got just wires running everywhere, but she's there. All the plugs are terminated where they're supposed to go, with the exception of our coolant plug-in. Of course, I'm still undecided if we're going to remove this one from the harness or not, because our crossbar actually lays right across it, so there's not any room for that plug-in to go. So we're likely going to remove this, put just probably a stainless plug in, just a thread-in plug, although that is an ORB fitting, which is an O-ring boss fitting, so there's got to be an O-ring in it, so I've got to figure that out. I'm sure there's a plug somewhere. Or I guess worst comes to worst, I could just leave this plug. I don't know, we'll figure that out. But our harness is all in, and so really the only thing I got to do is run a main ground to the battery, and then this wire right here actually is, you know, it's supposed to run from the alternator to the battery. Well, our battery is located inside the Jeep, so we're going to have to lengthen that. What I'm going to do is just make a whole new one, and then actually run it along. I don't know if I'm going to run it that way. I'm probably just going to bring it right in here, and you can see our coolant sensor in there now, so we're going to run it along with that one, probably up through here. All of our wires are still just out in the open, but they're all ran where they're going. So what I'm going to do is just get all the wires run together, get them zip tied together, taped together, whatever, just sort of hodgepodged, and then we're going to pull the harness back off, set it out here on the floor, give it a good wipe down, and then re-lume it all up, make it nice and pretty. I sort of want it to look decent, okay? I mean, is it too much to ask? So we really don't have a whole lot to get this thing to fire up. I was thinking, you know, hey, we throw 6 gallons of oil in this thing, hook our fuel line up, and I still got to put that kit back in the air dog, which takes all of 2 minutes. We can have it running pretty quick. So hopefully that's going to be the goal on the next video. We're at least going to get this thing running, especially since the harness is in. Like I said, we've got our exhaust piping over there to work on the stack kit, and then the piping for our non-intercoolerages, however you want to call that. We do have an intercooler. We're just going to save that for another weekend. But yeah, I think that's going to wrap this video up, guys. If you like this stuff, be sure to like and subscribe. Leave me a comment. Let me know. Say, hey, you know, this is pretty cool. Or hey, you know, let's get away from the Jeep. Let's worry with something else. But yeah, hopefully the next video we'll get to throwing the old 42s on it. Maybe, I don't know. You can see when I got the coilovers on it, she ain't got much clearance getting in out of the garage. So that's sort of the other crummy part. Once we get it running, we get it out of the garage, we put the 42s on it. It's gonna have to sit outside unless I just keep swapping the wheels and tires off of it. And we ain't doing that. And we may, I don't know, in the future we may end up building us a shop. You know, I got an opening, a clearing. You know, I'd cleared for a 60 by 80 when I built the house. And you know how things get. You start spending a lot of money, and you get a little nervous. So you're like, hey, let's wait on that. So, but that's been 4 years ago. We're good to build now, baby. Just need to take the time to do it. It's hard to take time when you got a project sitting in the garage that needs your time. So, yeah, like I said, like and subscribe, and follow along. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.